Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harping on Rugby preview show. And join me to look ahead to Leinster's next assignment this season is someone back for cap number 7. I also discovered during the week he's a fully paid up member of the Harping chapter of the Queen of the Stone Age fan club. Welcome back to Mr. Jay Long.
Hey Jeff, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Not too.
This is the first preview pod, so
Indeed. I'm sure you'll be grand. You'll be grand. Anyway, Jay, listen, since we last had you on, we played the Scarlet. So, what did you think of that performance?
yeah, very hard to be sad about a 50-plus win. 5 points on which is turning out to be a very, very close opening URC kind of table. So very hard to be sad about that. I mean, after all the tries, I think I was more impressed by the defense. To be honest, there was kind of 20 ropey minutes by the Scarlets in the first half that we just absolutely said no, just absolutely nuked them whenever we could. So it was great to see. And I suppose every win like that has to be caveated. Like with Welsh rugby is not without its woes, to say the least. So, but yeah, it's 5 points in the bag, and we move on to this week, which is bigger and better things, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for the 5 was definitely more impressive than the 54 on
Yeah,
the scoreboard, but it was yeah, we'll definitely take it. And like we always say, we said in our own rep pod that there's still work ons and stuff, but it's good to see kind of progress from that opening week through to the bigger matches, as you say. And so why don't we crack on with that and take a look at our feature match of the week, which is, of course, Leinster v Munster in round 6 of the 23-24 United Rugby Championship. It is taking place at the Aviva Stadium on Saturday, November 25th, kicking off at 6:30 p.m. TV coverage in Ireland is on TG Cahir, Premier Sports 1 and URC.tv. And as ever, you'll find the full listings for the weekend at harpinonrugby.com. Just click the Rugby on TV tab. Now, Leinster named their match day 23 at lunchtime on Friday. If you're watching on YouTube, it's right there in the screen. For pod listeners, it's in the program notes. Now, Jay has picked out 3 Harpin points from the Leinster selection. And for starters, well, Ross Byrne is well used to taking the field shortly after Johnny Sexton, but the circumstance is going to be slightly different on Saturday, with Johnny being introduced to the crowd before kickoff, while Ross himself will be wearing that blue 10 jersey. It's a big occasion for him, Jay.
yeah, it's big in every sense of the word, right? I mean, it's a big first game. Like I know we played last or against the Scarlets, but I mean, this is the big one, right? Opportunity for him to right some wrongs off the end of last season, and it's a whole new it's a brave new dawn in Irish rugby now with Johnny going off into the hills, and it's a massive opportunity to kind of put a stall out for both blue and green jerseys. Really, it kind of feels like there's a bit of open season at nearly first, second, third choice 10 at the moment. You can kind of see anybody pipping somebody to the post. Obviously, seems like Jack Crowley is the man in the chair now, but I think if either Ross or Jack have a storm and run to the Six Nations, either one could be the man who gets the shout at the start. So it's a massive opportunity from them. And then I suppose even within Leinster, Harry's been, I've had my quibbles with Harry at the start of the season, but he came good and towards like maybe game 3, game 4, and Sam Prendergast just looks like a baller, right? So with Jack Nabber coming in, I'm sure there's a bit of uncertainty there that maybe the credit that you thought you had in the bank, maybe that doesn't count anymore. So I think everybody's going to be really, really hungry. It's going to be really interesting to see how Ross kind of grabs the bulls by the horns now. For this game, you'd imagine to be starting against La Rochelle, and he just really needs to just write his name and address all over Irish rugby fly half over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big occasion for him. I mean, we've talked on the pod a lot about like what's going to happen now for Leinster at 10, and obviously it's not just about the 10 jersey. It's like who'd be on the bench as well. And like you say, Harry Byrne and Sam Prendergast have played a lot of the opening weeks of the season, and they've both done great in their own ways. I mean, Harry kind of improved as the games went on, and you can definitely see that there's a serious ball in there in Sam as well. But I think for games like this at this particular stage, it's good that I think it's good that we've gone for Frawley on the bench as a backup, because it kind of it gives us a sense that it shows that we trust Ross to play the full 80 minutes. As I say, that's kind of the ideal scenario. But we know that Frawley can come on and he can play multiple different positions, but it's not a question of, you kind of know you're going to have to make a substitution at some point. We're kind of relying on Ross to see out the whole game. And but it's good. It's good for Ross as well. And it'll be interesting to see how his game was very different to Sexton's.
Mhm.
He's much more of a kick passer kind of player, and maybe we'll start seeing the team changing that. We are looking to ship it out wide quicker. We're doing a lot of long loop passes and stuff to get it out into wide channels. But the kick pass is another option again, and he can kind of do them in his sleep. So we'll see what he does at the Viva tomorrow. Okay, so moving on to your second point, you want to have a look at the pack.
Yeah, I suppose the pack in general, but I mean, more importantly, I think the inclusion of Joe McCarthy, which is kind of counter to my third point, but I won't go spoilers, but I think Joe has more than deserved getting a shout at this because this is, I know, the, on the face of it, this is just an Interpro November game. It's no matter who wins or who loses, it's not the end of the world for either team. But we all know the kind of history behind the game, the gravitas that it brings, the fact that we're against the champions who beat us in our home turf in the semi final last season. And Joe's more than showed up to the party over the last couple of weeks. And I think it shows a really nice message from there. That if you play that standard, you're going to be the name on the sheet for the big one for the big games. And in general, the pack, it's an interesting thing anyway. Obviously, the front row is the kind of front row we all knew was going to be the case. Obviously, James Ryan was nailed on now that he's co-captain. But the back row, I think is interesting. We see Doris at 8, at Conan at 6, which if you go back to the La Rochelle final, that was the other way around. So maybe we've spotted something there that maybe we need to play to those guys' skill sets a little more, which is surprising to me. I would have thought it was the other way around, but obviously not. But yeah, it should be really, really interesting. I think Joe's going to bring plenty of grunt. I think James Ryan's going to be very, very hungry. Hopefully he's not sporting. I think he was looking after his wrist a little in the last game. So hopefully that's all cleared up. And then the bench pack looks really promising. You have Scott Penny, Kelleher, um, Boyle, to come on and add Brenty Grunt, Ross Maloney. Wouldn't ask for a better season campaigner to come on and kind of steer things home for the last 20 minutes. So I think I think the bench will be. I think the pack in general for us. Granted, Munster have pretty quality kind of second and back row, but I mean, I think the pack's going to be the kind of point of difference for us. And I really really like the one that that Leo's gone for here, Leo and Co. I should say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at beginning of last season when Jason Jenkins was coming in. We assumed that he'd be coming in to provide that power along with James Ryan in the second row, and it didn't really happen. I mean, it's not like it was a disaster or anything, but in the meantime, we've had Ross Maloney is still going up and up and up, and he's just you never complain about seeing him starting in any level of fixture for Leinster at the moment, and but then Joe McCarthy's kind of come out of nowhere as well and played his way right in, and he's got that dynamism about him. It's not just the work around the ruck. He can spoil lineouts as well, but the carrying as well.
And the
He's not afraid to bring it to the gain line and offload as well.
tasty
It's
offloads, yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, so it's very good to see. And like you say, the 6-2 split on the bench. It's interesting too. We were trying to see how it was difficult to pick a team both with and without leaving out Scott Penny. It was
Yeah,
hard to do it, and this is the way. They found a way to get him in, and it's great. And he's kind of earned his way into the team as well. So it'd be great to see how they utilize him through the 80 minutes. And
absolutely.
so moving on to your third point, now you're talking about one or two little calls where these might have gone for experience over form.
Well, this is just more kind of harping back to no, no pun intended. This is more just looking back at some of the complaints that quite a lot of kind of Leinster fandom would have had over the last couple of seasons, where coming into a final, a semi-final, the names are on the sheet regardless of how the rest of the season has progressed, and to a certain extent, you can kind of see a bit of a return to form of that here. I don't particularly think that's the case. Like for example, say Henshaw walking straight back into an Aviva, a packed Aviva, when say Charlie Natai and Jamie Osborne have done more than enough to be that guy. But at the end of the day, it's another game. We have an eye on the Champions Cup coming up, and Henshaw needs game time. There's no way you're leaving Robbie Henshaw out in the cold. We know that he has an insane engine, an insane ceiling. But likewise, there's a couple of guys who you'd feel kind of a bit sorry for now. They could be just be rested up. They could be front and center next week. But Max Deacon comes to mind for me. He's been absolutely stellar over the last couple of weeks, and he's just really taken his game up again. And I wouldn't be totally amazed to see him in and around the Six Nations squad if he keeps on going as he's going. Um, yeah, but that's it. I've just been reading some folks that are a little disappointed that we're not seeing a Jamie Osborne front and centre for this game. But it's a long season. Europe on the horizon, another into pro next week. Uh, you have to rotate, and that means not everyone gets game time every single week. But you'd have no hassle seeing Jamie starting a semi-final or a final, and that's where we want to be. We want 3 or 4 names in every position that you're happy to say that with. So I think that's the space that we're moving into.
Yeah, no question. I mean, Jamie was player of the week last week, and he's done really well in both center positions so far this season. And I mean, when you're looking at the 23 for this match in particular, you could actually see a 23 without Henshaw in it at all. I mean, even with it, whether it was a 6-2 split or not on the bench, if you were going to have three backs, you'd have a backup scrum half and maybe Frawley and Osborne, and that would give you like almost infinite options all across the back line. But no, the way it's panned out, it is tough on Osborne and Natsai as well. They've both done really well. I suppose they're thinking like Henshaw. He's so experienced in the Ireland camp. There's a Six Nations coming up, and if he's fully back from his injury, I suppose this was a good time to bring it in. If you're going to go there for that split on the bench, you probably it'd be a waste to have him on the bench. So if he has to play, he has to start in this kind of setup. And I mean, Henshaw Ringrose. I mean, who would have thought we'd be, even a year ago, who'd have thought we'd be scratching our head about it? Yeah, about that particular partnership in the center. But no, it's an interesting lineup all around. Okay, so let's move on to the our friends from down the other end of the N7. They also named their team, and it's an interesting lineup as well.
Yeah, certainly not what I had penciled down. That being said, the kind of second row, back row is pretty scary. Like Tom Ahern at 6 was a big surprise, and they could easily cause us massive hassle at line out time. It's kind of that's what's kind of plaguing me all day since I've seen it. You can kind of see those myths of Tydeburn, Tom Ahern, Coombs reaching for the sky and snatching ball. I think that's exactly what they're going to go for. But say that Tom Ahern has been pretty immense going forward as well. So yeah, I think there'll be that those guys will have some serious time in the ascendancy that I'd be worried about. In terms of where I see us getting a bit of change, I was surprised to see the front row that was named. All season, all very capable operators, but the Munster scrum, particularly the bench scrum, has suffered over the last couple of weeks. You could see the Stormers very, very nearly got back into it last week, but they just couldn't finish. It was Stormers and accuracy that probably saved Munster. Certainly a draw, but perhaps even a win. But yeah, other than that, we have Simon Zebo back at 15. He knows how to play the game, but he certainly hasn't played an awful lot in the last couple of weeks. But 9 and 10, Crowley, Casey, dangerous operators. Shane Daly looks very, very, very sharp at the moment. Calvin Nash looks very sharp at the moment. But you'd have to say that they are missing quite a few seasoned heads. Peter Matney obviously comes to mind. R.K. Snyman, who's understandably out. Guy can't catch a break. Haley. So there's plenty, but I was surprised actually to see Rory Scannell, above all else, Rory Scannell in instead of Nankiville. I thought Nankiville and Frisch were starting to really kind of click in. I think it's a bit of a gamble throwing a new combination in there. Considering that they were sure they were going to be facing Gary Ringrose and +1. No matter who that +1 was, it's going to be a tough day at the office for whoever Munster named the centres. But that's a reasonably new combo, which could be something we could get some change out of. But they're an absolutely dangerous team. They have some quality on the bench. Gleeson, Kindellan, these guys are coming in to make a big difference. But they're dangerous. But it certainly was surprised to see the 15 that they put out. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's I mean, there's definitely a lot of interesting selections there. I mean, if you the phrase when you say you could get 1,000 monkeys to type on 1,000 typewriters. I think if you did that, even if you did, you'd get a novel at some point, or you'd get an interesting sentence. But I don't think even a million of them would have come up with Ahern and Conan wearing 6 for the two sides. It's just, I mean, that just came out of the blue, and but there are some I'd say the key matchups are, I mean, it's definitely at number 10. It's Crowley and Byrne. There's it's Leinster, Munster. It's looking back at what happened earlier in the year. It's the Ireland future connotations. There's so many subplots to that, and we know
The drop goal that
Crowley's.
never happened.
Yeah, oh, no, that didn't happen at all. No, not at all. And there's there's a lot of connotations there, whatever about the other players, and that's going to be interesting. Just yeah, on a side note, on the bench, it's interesting to see Gleeson and Cohan possibly coming on to match up at the end as well. We've watched them play under 20s and marveled over them in the past as well. And now it's a chance to see them on the pitch at the same time. So that at the senior level, so it's going to be interesting. But I mean, I think pound for pound, you've got to say. I mean, I know we're both blue jerseys. We don't hide our allegiances, but it does on paper anyway, which is not where they play it, but it does seem to tend to favor Leinster. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so moving on to the officials now, and Chris Busby is holding the whistle, and you see his assistants there. And the weather for Dublin 4 on Saturday evening is supposed to be just plenty of clouds, not a whole lot of wind, and hopefully not a whole lot of rain either. So it should be a good evening for rugby in at the Aviva. And just before we get to a prediction of the match, what other matches this weekend are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, just a few. I'm looking forward to seeing Connacht again. Looking forward to seeing the spicy plum, as he's been kind of slightly disturbingly called. Come on for Ulster. They've certainly been waiting for him long enough. Yeah, looking forward to seeing the provinces. And I see Cardiff and Stormers on at the moment. I was hoping to catch that one when we finish up here. But
Yep.
yeah, the big one tomorrow. Leinster Munster.
I know. Not only did I drag you away from the toy show, but now I also have you missing a bit of rugby as well. So
Yeah.
it's I'm
Heartbroken
depriving you a lot this
two
evening.
times over.
I know this is it. Okay, so now let's just put the head in the block. And how do you see Leinster Munster going?
I think it's going to be, uncomfortably tight for say 60 minutes, but I feel like it's Leinster by 10, sort of a day. And sure, we'll see. We'll see how this ages, and it could be sound biteable on Monday morning.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, no, but like you say, if you look at it on paper, it's definitely looking that way. And this match, you could argue this match means a lot more to Leinster, just given what's happened so far this year as well. And they want to put on a really good show in front of the Viva crowd in particular after all that happened. So we'll see, and hopefully that's what has happened. Okay, well, listen, many thanks to Jay for harping. Looking forward to having you on again soon, man. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
And thanks to you all for tuning into our latest preview show. Enjoy the match wherever you are. Be sure to follow us on all the usual social media channels. We will, of course, have a wrap pod for you this week and recording on Sunday evening. Hopefully, you'll help us out by liking, sharing, and subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, everyone. Slán.